All right, ready to trade the runway for rolling vineyards.
Sounds like a good trade to me.
Today we're heading to Lombardia, fashion capital, finance hub.
Uh,
But I bet you didn't know it's also home to some pretty incredible wine.
it's true. Lombardia's wine scene is kind of like a hidden gem just waiting to be discovered.
So not just Milan and high fashion, huh?
Yeah.
From what I've read, Lombardia's wine story goes way back, like ancient Roman
Oh,
time.
you're talking way, way back. We're talking Etruscans. They were cultivating grapes in Lombardia long before some of the more famous Italian wine regions even got started.
Wow. And then the Romans came along and saw its potential.
Right, exactly. They expanded the vineyards and basically laid the groundwork for the winemaking traditions that still thrive there today.
That's amazing. So what was it about Lombardia that made it such a prime spot for wine even all those centuries ago?
Well, Lombardy has always had this fascinating mix of natural elements, fertile valleys, the influence of the Alps, major lakes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it all comes together to create these unique microclimates, different soil types, and that amazing tapestry of terroir.
Which basically means,
It means that the wines have a real sense of place. You can really taste the region in every sip.
got it. And so instead of just one story, it's more like a collection of stories, each region adding its own flavor.
Absolutely. That's what makes exploring Lombardia's wine scene so exciting. It's like a patchwork quilt of different terroirs, grapes you might not have even heard of, and these, winemaking traditions that have been passed down through generations.
Okay, I'm sold. So let's start stitching together this patchwork, shall we? And where better to begin than with Franciacorta?
The king of Italian sparkling wine.
Exactly. It's everywhere these days, but is it just a champagne wannabe? Or is there more to it?
I think Franciacorta more than holds its own. Yes, it uses the same traditional method as champagne, but the wines have a distinct personality, a real elegance and finesse.
And it's because of,
Terroir, my friend. Franciacorta has this cooler climate, and the soils, well, they're special. Lots of chalk, which gives the wines this incredible minerality. That sort of almost salty, stony quality.
I love that. Now, I've always wondered about this traditional method.
Yeah.
What makes it so unique? Is it really all about the bubbles?
Well, the bubbles are definitely a big part of it, but it's the way they're created that makes the traditional method so special. You see, there's a second fermentation that happens right inside the bottle.
Wait, so there's like a fermentation party going on in each bottle?
Pretty much, after the first fermentation, they add a little bit of sugar and yeast, seal it up, and boom, a second fermentation kicks off.
And that creates.
The bubbles, the carbon dioxide gets trapped, and you get those beautiful, fine, persistent bubbles that we all love about Franciacorta.
So it's not just about the bubbles themselves, but the whole journey they take to get there.
Precisely. And speaking of journeys, our next stop takes us to a region that's as visually stunning as it is viniculturally diverse.
Let me guess. Valtellina.
You got it. The land of Nebbiolo, but with an alpine twist.
I've seen pictures of those vineyards. Breathtaking. Tell me, what's it like for Nebbiolo to grow in this mountain landscape?
It's where Nebbiolo really shows its strength. We're
Mhm.
talking steep, terraced vineyards clinging to the sides of the Italian Alps.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty dramatic. The Nebbiolo grape, or Chiavenasca as they call it locally, it loves this kind of challenge.
And what kind of wines does it like?
The wines are powerful, age-worthy, and they have this real intensity that reflects the landscape, a real sense of place, like we were talking about.
I've heard that Valtellina isn't just one big area, though. It's divided into subzones, each with its own unique character.
True. Think of it like a mosaic of microclimates and soil types. So you have Sicella, known for its elegant wines, then Inferno, with its bolder, more intense style.
Inferno? That's an intense name.
Right. And then Grumello and Valgella, each with its own personality. So even within Valtellina, there's so much to discover.
Okay, I need to get myself to Valtellina, like ASAP. But we can't talk about Lombardia without mentioning its largest wine region, right?
Oltrepo Pavese.
Yes. Rolling hills, lots of different wine styles. If you had to pick one grape that represents the heart and soul of Oltrepo Pavese, what would it be?
Ooh, tough one. But I'd have to say Croatina.
Croatina. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's the most planted grape in the region, and it really captures the essence of Oltrepo Pavese. It's got this rustic charm, and makes wines that are super approachable but still have a lot of depth.
So we have elegant sparkling wines
Yeah.
in Franciacorta, powerful Nebbiolo and Valtellina, and the soulful Croatina of Oltrepo Pavese. This is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Oh, we've only just scratched the surface. There's still Lake Garda to explore.
And all those other unique grapes you mentioned. This is going to be fun.
It really is. Lombardy is full of surprises, and the surprises keep coming when you start looking at the native grapes.
Okay, yeah. Tell me about some of those.
Well, we talked about Croatina and Oltrepò Pavese, right? But if we head a bit further south, there's this area, San Colombano Alhambra.
San Colombano Alhambra. Okay.
Tucked away south of Milan, it's kind of a haven for Barbera.
Barbera. But isn't Barbera more of a Piemonte thing?
You're thinking of the big, bold Barberas,
Yeah. Yeah.
But here in San Colombano, it shows a different side of itself.
Oh, really? Like what?
The wines are still bright and juicy, lots of red fruit.
Right.
But there's also this structure and elegance almost. I think it's the cooler climate and the unique soils of the region that give it that extra layer of complexity.
Interesting. So it's like the same grape, but wearing a different outfit.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked red, but I know Lombardia has some interesting whites too.
Oh, absolutely. You have to try Herbaluse.
Herbalutes, okay.
It's grown mainly in the Alto Piemonte region, but that stretches into Lombardia too.
Right.
And the wines, oh, they're so aromatic.
What do they smell like?
Honeysuckle, lemon zest, there's even a hint of almond in there.
Now that you mention it, the name Herbaluse rings a bell. Is that related to any other Italian grapes?
Not that I know of. It's considered a true native to the area.
Wow. It's amazing to think there are still hidden gems like that out there, just waiting to be discovered.
I know, right? It makes you want to keep exploring.
It does. Speaking of exploring, we touched on Lake Garda earlier, but
Right.
we were talking about Garda Bresciano, the Lombardia side.
Yes.
Refreshing whites, you said?
Yes, they have Riesling, Chardonnay, those kinds of things. But there are also some really fascinating red grapes that grow there, too.
Oh. Tell me more about those.
Well, there's Grappello, for example. It's a lighter-bodied red.
Lighter-bodied.
Yeah, perfect for those warm summer evenings by the lake. The wines have bright cherry fruit, a touch of spice.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Let's see. Oh, Marzemino. It's said to be Mozart's favorite wine.
No way. Seriously.
Legend has it, at least. The wines are lovely, actually. A nice balance of red fruit, some floral notes, and a really refreshing acidity.
A great fit for musical genius. I mean, I always thought Lake Garda was just about the whites, but this is opening up a whole new side of the region for me.
Lombardia loves to surprise you like that. And speaking of surprises, have you heard about the Sangiovese they're making in Lombardia?
Wait, Sangiovese, isn't that like the king of Tuscany, Chianti, Brunello, all that?
That's its home turf, yes, but Sangiovese has roots in Lombardia too, especially in Oltrepò Pavese.
Wow, I had no idea. So does it taste the same as Tuscan Sangiovese, or is it doing its own thing over in Lombardia?
It definitely has its own personality. The wines tend to be a bit lighter and brighter than their Tuscan counterparts, but they still have that signature cherry fruit and that savory quality that makes Sangiovese so good with food.
So it's like Sangiovese is taking a vacation from Tuscany and trying out a new accent.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Nebbiolo in the mountains, those hidden gems like Grappello and Marzemino. It's clear that Lombardy is all about diversity, but let's not forget that winemaking is a huge part of the equation too.
Absolutely. The grapes are only half the story. You need skilled hands to guide them from the vine to the bottle.
So tell me about the people, the techniques, the practices that shape the wines of Lombardia. What are some of the defining characteristics of Lombardia winemaking?
Well, a lot of the winemakers in Lombardia are really focused on sustainability and organic farming. They see it as a way to preserve the land for future generations.
That's great.
And then during harvest, it's all about handpicking the grapes, selecting only the best fruit to make it into the winery.
That's got to be a lot of work.
It is, but it's worth it. They're really dedicated to quality. And then inside the winery, it's a fascinating mix of tradition and technology. Some stick to the old ways, using big wooden casks for fermentation and aging. Others are using modern techniques like temperature-controlled stainless steel tanks or even things like micro-oxygenation.
Micro-oxy dot what now?
It's basically a way to control the amount of oxygen the wine is exposed to during aging. It can help to soften the tannins and add complexity.
Wow, that's pretty high tech.
Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about Lombardia winemaking without diving into the magic of Franciacorta, right? It's a whole world in itself.
It really is.
You mentioned earlier it uses the same traditional method as champagne, but can you break down exactly what that involves? Give us a peek behind the curtain, so to speak.
Okay, so the traditional method, sometimes called méthode champenoise, is a multi-stage process. It all starts with a secondary fermentation happening right inside the bottle.
Okay, we talked about that a little bit before. Remind me how that works again.
So after the first fermentation, they bottle the base wine with some sugar and yeast, which they called the liqueur de tirage.
Liqueur de tirage, got it.
That mixture basically triggers a second fermentation inside the sealed bottle. And that's where the magic happens. The carbon dioxide gets trapped and you get the bubbles.
Right, right. So the bubbles are a byproduct of this second fermentation.
Exactly. But the process doesn't end there. After the second fermentation, the bottles are aged on their lees, which is basically the dead yeast cells. That adds complexity, creates that creamy texture, and gives those lovely bread-like aromas.
So the bubbles are just part of the equation.
Right. Then you have the riddling. They slowly turn and tilt the bottles to move the yeast sediment down to the neck.
And that's so they can remove it.
Yes. They do that in a process called disgorgement. They freeze the neck of the bottle, trap the sediment in a little ice plug, pop the cork, and out comes the sediment, leaving the clear, sparkling wine.
It's amazing how much precision and patience goes into each bottle of Franciacorta. But this attention to detail isn't just for sparkling wines, right? What about the reds? Are there any unique techniques that stand out in Lombardia?
Well, maceration is a big one. They soak the grape skins in the juice to extract color, tannins, and all those wonderful flavors.
Ah, so that's how they get that deep color and richness.
Exactly. The winemaker can control how long that maceration lasts to get the style they're after. Short maceration might give you a lighter, fruitier wine, while longer maceration creates something bigger and bolder.
Interesting. So it's almost like a recipe where they can adjust the ingredients and cooking times to get different results.
Exactly. And then there's oak aging. A lot of Lombardia's reds spend some time in oak barrels. That helps to soften the tannins, round out the flavors, add some more complexity.
Oak is like the spice rack of the wine world.
I like that analogy. And just like spices, different types of oak can impart different flavors. French oak, American oak, new oak, used oak. It all plays a role.
Okay, my head is spinning with all this winemaking talk. It's incredible how much thought and care goes into making these wines. But now I'm starting to get hungry. All this talk of wine has my taste buds tingling for some Lombardia cuisine. What can you tell me about the food?
Oh, the food is just as exciting as wine. We're talking risotto, rich braised meats, cheeses. Lombardia has it all. And you know what they say?
What's that?
What grows together goes together. So Lombardia's wines and its cuisine, they're a match made in heaven.
Okay, let's put down the glasses and pick up the forks, because no exploration of Lombardia would be complete without talking about the food.
Oh, the food. You're in for a treat.
From what I've heard, it's hearty, comforting, full of flavor.
Lombardia's cuisine is really a reflection of the region itself, you know. You have the Alpine influence up north, hearty rustic dishes from the plains, and then of course you have Milan. Very sophisticated.
Sounds like a culinary adventure waiting to happen.
It is.
So let's talk specifics. What are some of those signature Lombardia dishes that I absolutely have to try?
Well, you can't talk about Lombardia without mentioning risotto.
Ah, risotto. I knew it.
It's like their culinary ambassador. And when in Lombardia, you have to try the classic risotto alla Milanese.
Saffron, right.
Saffron. It's golden, creamy, delicious.
Okay, I'm sold. Risotto alla Milanese, check. But I'm ready to go beyond the basics. What else should I be adding to my culinary bucket list?
If you're looking for something really special, something that embodies that Milanese elegance, you have to try ossobuco.
Ossobuco. Okay, I'm intrigued. What is that exactly?
It's a slow braised veal shank, usually served with, you guessed it, saffron risotto. It is. The meat is so tender, it just falls off the bone.
So we're talking like melt-in-your-mouth deliciousness.
Exactly. And speaking of melt in your mouth, have you ever tried bresaola?
Solola. That sounds familiar, but I don't think I've ever had it.
It's an air-dried cured beef, a specialty of Valtellina up in the mountains.
Oh, interesting.
It's thinly sliced, and it has this delicate, almost sweet flavor. Perfect as an appetizer.
Okay, that's go on the list. But, you know, we can't talk about Lombardia without mentioning the cheese.
Of course.
I mean, it's cheese heaven. And when I think of Lombardia cheese, I think gorgonzola.
Oh, gorgonzola. It's a classic for a reason.
But is it just another blue cheese, or is there something special about it?
Gorgonzola has this unique combination of creamy texture and those pungent blue veins, you know? It's actually one of the oldest blue cheeses in the world. And it comes in two main types. Dolce, which is milder and creamier, and picante, which is sharper and more intense.
Okay, I'm officially starving. But let's get to the good stuff. Pairings. How do all these amazing Lombardia wines complement the region's cuisine?
Oh, the pairings are incredible. The Lombardia's food and wine have evolved together over centuries, you know, so they really complement each other beautifully.
So let's start with Altalena Nebbiolo, those big, bold reds.
Mm.
What kind of dishes can stand up to them?
Well, think hearty mountain food, like pizza curry, which is a buckwheat pasta often served with braised beef and cheese.
Sounds delicious.
Or how about polenta with a rich wild mushroom ragu?
Oh, that's making my mouth water. Okay, what about Franciacorta? What is it like to mingle with?
Franciacorta is so versatile. It's a natural, with risotto alla Milanese, for example. The acidity and the bubbles cut through the richness of the dish,
Right.
and the yeasty notes from the wine complement the saffron beautifully.
I bet it's like a party in your mouth. All right, Oltrepò Pavese. What are we pairing with those soulful Croatina wines?
Ultra Pavese is all about rustic charm, remember? So think grilled meats, hearty stews, dishes that showcase the local ingredients.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lombardy is all about regional pairings. What grows together goes together,
You
right?
got it. Now, I know we've barely scratched the surface, but if I could only recommend one cheese and wine pairing in Lombardia,
Yes, what would it be?
I'd have to say Gorgonzola Dolce with a sweet Moscato d'Asti.
Oh, that does sound amazing. The sweetness of the Moscato, the bubbles, the creamy Gorgonzola.
It's a classic for a reason.
Well, I'm convinced. I'm ready to book a flight to Lombardy and experience all this firsthand.
I don't blame you. It's a region that truly captures the heart and soul of Italian wine and food.
From those sparkling lakeside vineyards to the rugged mountain slopes, Lombardia really is a testament to Italy's diversity.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so special. There's something for everyone.
Exactly. Whether you're a seasoned wine expert or just starting your journey, Lombardy is a region that invites you to explore, discover, and savor. So cheers to Lombardia and cheers to the next adventure.
Salute.